Hi, my name is Martin and I'm a specialist driver coach in Open Formula. In this video, I'm going to give you some opportunities and some insights to look out for from FP1 and FP2 in Monza. If you're interested in what those are, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I hope you're going well. Let's start with the conditions as we always do. It was very dry, very sunny, very stable, very predictable, not too challenging for the drivers in any particular sense, other than this little tailwind into turn one that seemed to catch a few of the drivers out. As you're braking with a tailwind, obviously it just pushes the car on. It's a little bit annoying, a bit frustrating. So we saw, some of the drivers that we saw go deep? So I think we saw Lando Norris go deep, Hulkenberg go deep, a lockup from Antonelli, a lockup on the inside right front from Leclerc as well. Just means you've got to bring your braking earlier and play a lot with your braking setup and braking tools as well. I'm going to get onto that a little bit later on in this video. And first, I wanted to just talk to you guys about the chicanes. We've got 3 chicanes on this track. First chicane, second chicane, Ascari chicane as well. And a little bit of background, a little bit of theory if you didn't join the live stream. The first entry curb really presents an opportunity in the chicanes because you're braking and turning and then bang, you just unload the front by giving it a last armful of steering lock. And you want to just transfer as much load as possible to the outside one and then connect in that unloaded, that free inside tire with the first entry curb. That's going to give you a nice compliant experience. It's going to allow you to shortcut the chicane as well. And it's going to allow you to go through nice and quickly as well and just open the steering wheel, bury the throttle, do your short shifting and just get out of the chicane nicely. Let me jump over to the whiteboard and show you guys how that looks like in theory. I've just got here like the first chicane, for example, and the idea is that you want to turn into this first part and really unload the inside front, connect in with that curb, and that's going to allow you to achieve the first part, which is shortcut the chicane. And then from there, it's just straight line traction, open the steering wheel, bury your foot, and it helps having that nice angle from which to turn into the second part. So that's the theory with chicanes. But you guys know, like I said in the live stream, every year you've got to jump out there and do your track walk and double check how the entry curbs look and are looking this year. And that's something I want to get onto now. So I'll bring up an image to show you guys how they're looking. And I'll just compare, I'll just show you guys the changes as well that happened over the years. So we saw yesterday on the live stream that in 2017, this is how the first entry curb looked. It was with this green, red and white easy first part and then a little bit of a higher orange part. Looks fairly usable for an entry curb. And then over in the distance, your exit curb is your big sausage curb. That one's not usable, but we're not that interested in that one anyway. And then if you come across to last year, and this is no change now for this year's my point, you've got this big orange sausage curb present on the first chicane, second chicane, entry curb, and exit curb as well. So it's not that usable in my opinion. That big orange sausage curb doesn't really provide much of an opportunity to ride it. It's quite high. Worth trying, but I don't think it's worth using. But there is an opportunity at the Ascari, and I wanted to show you guys that curb as well, the entry curb there and how that looks. So it's the exact same as we saw in 2014. That orange piece is removed. And yes, there is a decent opportunity at the Ascari chicane. So that's the same for this year as well. Now, the drivers looked really scared and very timid in a way to try that entry curb in the Ascari chicane. I didn't see too many drivers trying it. I'm going to get on to the only driver who did try it. And full credits and full hats off to him. But they look very scared. It's a high-speed entry into Ascari. You're tearing down that straight at, God knows, 330 plus. Braking, it's 3 or 4 gears down into there. And then you got to commit. And it's really important you unload the inside front for that nice compliant experience. But the drivers looked very scared on one hand. And I don't think we have the set of cars to give the drivers confidence in that entry curb in Ascari. You know, we got big cars. We got heavy cars. We've got very stiff cars. It's everything you don't want for a compliant experience across the chicane. And for that reason, the drivers are very much like, I'd rather not touch it and not find out. Now, my philosophy is always, well, hang on, it's practice. You don't need to go through that 330 kilometers on your first go. Go through there at 200, see how you go. Or start at 150. Let's call it 150 to be conservative. Start there at 150, see how you go. Is it compliant? Tick. Okay, fine. Go through there at 200. How does it feel? Tick. Then go through that 220 and 250 and draw a line if you feel like it's just getting a little bit too much. there's not many corners on this track. We've already said the first chicane and second chicane, the curbs don't present an opportunity. So my eyes therefore are on the Ascari chicane, where there is a decent opportunity and you just want to build up to it and play around with that chicane and get familiar with it. So who was the only driver that we saw do that? It was Lando Norris. He just cruised down the back straight on the way to Ascari and just had a look at, just had a feel of that curb. Put your feet in the water and test the water temperature. So good job, Lando. And that's something I came down on Lando really hard for in the Canadian Grand Prix when he was sitting on the outgrid saying, Jarv, can you check what's happening with the chicanes? And I'm like, hang on, this is almost race start and you're asking about chicanes. No. What were you doing in Friday? What were you doing in Saturday? That's what your practice session is for. So let's have a look at the video now. I'll show it to you guys. Okay, so this is Lando cruising down the Ascari chicane. I don't know what speed he's doing, but look at this. He just susses it out. And actually, it looks pretty compliant. I don't know about you guys, what you guys thought of that. But to me, that looked pretty good. It was at that speed. So I'd be saying, okay, perfect. Go again, Lando. So he's got a little trick here. This is something that the other drivers don't know about at this point. We spoke about this last week and Lando not revealing his secrets too early in the practice so that he starts here and Oscar has to build up and he can find out all those secrets. That's valuable information for Lando. So Oscar won't know about that because he missed out on this session. And if Lando's not setting purple sectors using that line, other drivers won't know. To me, that looked very compliant. That looked very positive. So it didn't look like that sort of curb would upset the balance of the car. Now, the reason that I came down hard on Lando was, like I say, because in the pre-race on the outgrid in Canada, this was his radio message to Will.
Article. Jarv, can you see if on laps to grid Oscar's using curb in turn 6 to then prepare turn 7? Yeah, check now.
Yeah, so at that point, guys, I just think it's too late. Again, you want to be doing that work in practice. So it's like a constructive criticism of Canada, but good to see Lando's not making the same mistake twice. He's feeling it out. I'll be curious to see how this unfolds during the weekend. Does Lando continue to play around with it, as I think he should? Has Oscar seen that? Has other drivers seen that? Are other drivers showing curiosity? That'll be a big story this weekend as to who's brave enough and got the car enough and using the right technique in Ascari to find a bit of lap time on the entry curb there. So if the first chicane is not an opportunity, the second chicane is not an opportunity, there's half an opportunity at the Ascari chicane. Where are some of the opportunities back at the first and second chicane? Well, I think it's under braking. I think you've got an opportunity to just find time under braking, be clean through the first and second part, and just exit as per normal. So it's really under braking. The braking late, obviously, is going to give you lap time and pulling up the car. But it's got to do with when you hit the brakes. So is it between the 100 and 150, for example, at the 100, for example. So that's the first thing you can play with. The second thing is how you actually hit the brakes. Do you smack them on super hard? And, when downforce is significant, do you take advantage of that? Or do you just gently, introduce the car to the brake pedal and then wind it on? That's the second thing that you can play with. And then the third thing that you can play with is your whole raft of braking tools. So that's how you use your engine braking and downshifting during that time, what your brake balance is, what your brake migration is, and so on, all those braking tools that the cars have. So that's where I think the biggest opportunity is in braking. It's a big topic, even though it's just a very straight line braking. So I think that just with the downforce the cars are running, it's quite low downforce. Maybe in qualifying you can smack the brake pedal. Maybe. I'll be keen to see if we get a brake trace, but for the most part, I think it'll be introducing the car to the brake pedal for the most part. I just don't think they have the downforce and grip to be able to hammer it like you would at, say, turn 1 Melbourne, for example, when you're still doing 300 kilometers, but you've got heaps of downforce and heaps of grip to go with it. I think here, just the way they've trimmed off the cars, there's not that much downforce and grip at the end of that straight. And so it will be a form of progressive braking, maybe not super progressive like when you're turning and braking at the same time, like combining into a long corner of constant radius, but it'll be more progressive than, say, a Melbourne turn 1, for example. So keep an eye out for that. But I think that's where the lap time is in first chicane, second chicane. Now that should favor the likes of Lewis Hamilton. That's one of Lewis's biggest strengths. And you could say his only strength at this point is to hang on to his late hard braking. That's going to have to be the play for Lewis. His feel for the brake pedal, his feel for the braking grip. I'm not sure whether or not he can leverage the braking tools like a Valtteri Bottas or a Nico Rosberg, but certainly the first two, the braking point and the braking pressure, Lewis should nail those. And if he can just work a little bit with the braking setup as well, there's an opportunity for Lewis. He might not have the feel for the chicanes or the mid corner at the moment, or the rear with the Ferrari, but surely he's got a feel for the brake pedal. That's a big opportunity for Lewis to do well this weekend. Need to talk to you guys about Lesmos 1 and Lesmos 2, the pair of Lesmos that form the square towards the other side of the track. They're just after the second chicane. A lot of drivers struggling there, just running wide. There's no grip, there's no downforce. All the aero is pretty much trimmed off these cars at this point this weekend. And in FP1 at least, they're just four-wheel sliding, like understeer, four-wheel, like all four wheels, just with lack of downforce, the car's pushing on at the exit of the corner. Even Max said as much on the radio. He's like, yeah, just got no grip, mate. I'm just sliding around. The car's just sliding. So it's a lack of overall downforce rather than front or rear. The car just not sticking to the road. So yeah, it's like, what's a solution there then? There's not much you can really do to solve for that. The only thing you can do is just drive within that limit. So it's like, the more you push in the Lesmos, the more you ask for late braking and turn the car in with high speed, the more susceptible you are to that sort of thing. So it's more like you just need to bring it in a little bit, play a more conservative input into there. Less is going to be more. And being quick in Lesmos 1 and Lesmos 2 is more about not making mistakes as it is overdriving and, really driving on the limit and pushing the limits of the car. I think you'll land in trouble if you do that in Lesmos 1, Lesmos 2, even in qualifying setup. I think it's just all about, okay, just brake a touch earlier, but then come out of the brake pedal and just float the car through and roll the speed through the corner. Keep the minimum speed alive, straighten the steering wheel on the exit and just go like that. So it's going to be more about who can come out of the brake pedal early and just float the car through the corner. I think that's the solution. So Lando's typically pretty good at that as well. And I'll be keeping an eye on the minimum speeds particularly through Lesmos 2, because you got the long straight afterwards. So if you can just keep that alive, and then that's really going to help carry the speed down to Ascari chicane. So it's not so much of an opportunity, but rather I just see that as a safe way to get through Lesmos 1 and Lesmos 2. Let me show you guys a photo of, just what was very typical of a lot of the drivers. It's just running wide on the exit of Lesmos 2 and 1 as well. A lot of the drivers, different drivers up and down the grid. This is a shot of Lando, quite a wide one. So Lando's pushing quite hard in the first session, trying to find where those limits are. Again, just brake earlier, brake softer, ask less of the car, go through trouble-free and move on to the Ascari chicane. Now, on the exit of this Ascari chicane, there's also another opportunity, and the opportunity is at which point do you bring the car across to the left-hand side for braking into the Parabolica? Do you A, exit the Ascari chicane and bring the car across straight away, or do you B, let the car breathe and accelerate for a few shifts and then bring the car across later? This is something I learned off Rob Wilson. Not many of the drivers were doing this, but yeah, I'll jump over to the whiteboard and explain you guys a little bit of the theory just so you understand it, and then we'll have a look at some examples as well. So I've just got this drawn out. Now, the theory is as follows. What you need to do is you exit the Ascari chicane over here. Hopefully you can see that. And you need to get the car across here for entry into the Parabolica. Now, what a lot of the drivers are doing is coming through the Ascari chicane, bring the car across straight away, and then make sure that they're ready at this point for braking into the Parabolica. The problem is, though, with this red line here, is at this point, the car is got a little bit of acceleration to do, and it would be helpful if you can keep the steering wheel straight when you do that acceleration. So if I just draw in green, maybe take a shift, take another shift, and then bring the car across a little bit later, because you're taking advantage of that critical acceleration with the steering wheel straight. That's the best way to get the car to move forward. And the way Rob explains it is let's say you're going down a straight and you have to miss one of the shifts. Well, would you rather miss the shift first to second, or would you rather miss the shift 7 to 8? You'd rather miss the shift 7 to 8 because all of the acceleration work has been done. You're reaching terminal velocity at this point. It's a smaller penalty to pay to miss shift 7 to 8 than it is to miss shift 1 to 2. So essentially what Rob is saying is, let the car breathe and accelerate. Do not put steering angle in this critical acceleration time over here. and then bring the car across. Now, Rob says to bring it across at the last possible second. I kind of disagree with that because I think too much steering has to go in. It's too sharp of a turn. I'm more of the philosophy of, listen, just let the car breathe for a few shifts and then bring it across just after you've done a couple of shifts. I don't like the last possible second. I don't like bringing the car across straight away. I just think let it do a few shifts, let the car breathe and just have that moment of acceleration and then move across and take the Parabolica. Interesting little technique. Like I didn't know about this before I heard about Rob and listened to some of his philosophies. I don't think there's much lap time here. I'm probably thinking in the order of 1/100th of a second. I think if you nail this technique as opposed to someone who just pulls the car across, I just don't think Formula One cars are that sensitive to the steering input, and it's a very minimal steering input. There's not a significant track width across here, which is very important. Now, if this was like Malaysia, for example, between, let's say, the last corner and turn 1 down the pit straight, there is a significant track width. And so it does matter. Like you've got to bring the car across quite a distance. And I think here they're just very gently turning in any case. This is my estimation for how much this is worth. So let me show you guys some of the techniques, let's say, that most of the drivers were doing. Rob wouldn't be too happy with this. So this is Carlos Sainz, literally just brings the car across straight away. And you can see here at this point, Carlos is already on the racing line, ready to enter the Parabolica, but that steering inputs cost him a little bit of acceleration. So I would say it's a very early come across. So have a look at this. As soon as he exits, literally the steering goes in quite aggressively as well, and he's already there, ready, but there's no corner yet. So it's kind of like, I'd rather just wait a little bit, somewhere around this, just before this second bridge maybe. I mean, it's hard to say. It's just about taking advantage of the acceleration, yes. Getting there with enough time to make sure the car's set and ready for the Parabolica, yes, as well. And just not shooting yourself in the foot either way. So I think always like mid-track or halfway down the straight are always very safe, very good options. But I think this is an example of something that's just a little bit too early from Carlos Sainz. Now, the only other small opportunity, and again, it's another very small opportunity that I saw, was the entry curb into the Parabolica. There's a very small entry curb that actually runs just alongside the track on the entry to the Parabolica. I'll draw it on the whiteboard. It's just across here on the entry, and it could give you that little bit of extra space from which to carry speed into the Parabolica. Now, if you've been following the channel, you'll know all about the tight line. The tight line says do not use all of the available track width on entry. The tight line says you're just going to turn in from mid-track. Very different situation though when you would use a tight line. It's when you're doing direction change from slow speed and there's a significant track width into long corners of constant radius. It's that situation that we saw between turn 9 and 10 in Netherlands and the last two corners in Hungary. If you're not familiar with that whole technique, go check out those videos from last 2 weekends. But here is very different. I would say if you can get the car over to that entry curb and, open up the track and carry in a little bit more speed, keep the downforce a bit more significant into the final corner, then yes. The problem is though, and I'll just bring up a picture to illustrate my point. Actually, I've just got a picture here of Carlos Sainz, who's he's using this as well. So I'll show you guys here. You can see Carlos with the left front on this entry curb. And that's actually a decent use of it. Though the problem that I see with this entry curb is that it's quite kind of a late start. Like there's not a big run of this for you to be able to set up your entry. So if you have a look at this is Lando and he's not using it. And this is the 100-meter board here. So it's after the 100. So there's not much time for you to get across before braking and get the steering wheel straight. So it's tricky to actually get on there. You've got to put a bit of steering lock in. I think it's quite a challenge. It just depends at what point they're braking. If they're braking at the 50, which is this board here, then sure, you've probably got enough time to get on it, bang, and then brake from there. But if they're braking, where this starts, then, you don't want to have the car pointing diagonally away from the corner. That's going to compromise your entry grip as well. So it's kind of, jury's out on this one. I'm not sure. Now look, Kimi Antonelli was trying it. Carlos Sainz was trying it as well. This is a technique for Kimi Antonelli at this point. If you have a look at Bahrain, he's like all over the entry curbs and maximizing the track width into some of the increasing radius corners in Bahrain. Like turn 11, for example, in Bahrain is a good example. Everyone was doing it. But this is a tricky one. It's a very skinny piece of, green entry curb. It's very late in the braking zone. There's arguments for and against. Again, the curiosity, guys, is try these things, see how you go with them. This is something that might clean up and rubber in and develop as this race weekend unfolds. Maybe it's something you want to just do in qualifying and stay away from in the race. But if you're looking for that last extra pieces of lap time, then I think it's some of the things I've described in this video. It's going to be the braking into the first and second chicanes, maximizing that. It's going to be just being very passive and very gentle into the Lesmos. It's going to be the entry curb in Ascari, keeping the steering wheel straight for a fraction of a second to get that acceleration out of Ascari, and then just trying to squeeze a bit of extra centimeters on the entry curb into the Parabolica to carry more speed through there as well. I think that's what the perfect lap will look like come qualifying tomorrow. So I'll be interested to see who can just tick all those boxes and get it done and get P1 tomorrow. Alrighty, let's talk about FP2. The big story for me was, of course, Kimi Antonelli beached, meant he missed out on all of that valuable running in FP2. Yeah, for full context and disclosure, I watch FP1 and then I film the FP1 reaction insights piece for this video. Then I watch FP2, then I film the FP2 section, and then I stitch them together. So what you get from me in FP1 is a live reaction without me seeing FP2. It's just interesting to see that those stories always unfold. I was talking about just being patient in the Lesmos, not overdriving, not asking too much of the car. A clean and quick way through Lesmos is that way, and just don't overdrive the car. It's not worth it. You're going to end up in trouble. Exactly what Kimi Antonelli did, unfortunately. So you just want to brake early and just come off the brakes early and just roll speed through the corner. That's all you got to do. Don't ask too much of the car with combined braking and steering. Interesting, discussion about Antonelli's mindset at this point. The pressure's on and he's feeling it, and I feel for him as well in a way. I've said this about all of the rookies. I feel for them because they're just placed in a very difficult environment with seemingly no coaches or mentors to just give them goals and objectives and nurture them through that challenging period of being dropped in F1. And it's a sink or swim situation. And invariably, some of them are going to sink, some of them are going to swim, but he's 19. He deserves help, support, nurturing, guidance, not from a race engineer, not from Bono, from a driver coach and mentor who can foresee these things and protect Kimi and build his confidence and that sort of thing. So what I would be saying to Kimi at this point is, let's take the expectations away of being quick. You don't need to be quick at this stage. You don't need to compete with George. You don't need to get into Q3. I would take all that off him and I'd say, let's just focus on consistency and let's try to put 3 weekends together. What are the next 3 races? Okay, Baku, and I don't know the other 2. Is there one Singapore or whatever? Let's try to just have 3 clean weekends, have good weekend, just see how we go from there. After that, once we have those 3 under our belt, maybe then we can start to talk about where the lap time is and stuff like that. But he needs that reset. I'm trying to build a sourdough starter at the moment. I'm doing a bit of home baking and trying to get into it. And I'm struggling with this exact same thing. With the sourdough starter, you mix flour and water a little bit to start with. And then you put more flour and water and then even more, and you build it over time, over days. And I don't have the patience for it, to be honest, guys. So if there's anyone that's doing that or has done that, definitely leave me a comment. But it's the same thing. I just want Kimi to start slow with minimal expectations, start small and just build a successful and just go through the motions and tick the boxes. And then, we can talk about lap time on the 4th weekend. I think that's what he needs. That would be my advice anyway, my recommendation to his mindset. Yeah, it was interesting to see also, did you guys see Lando Norris clip the exit curb in the 2nd chicane? Again, I'll bring up the video now to show you guys, but essentially what I've been saying is the entry curb is the one you want to go after. It's under braking when the inside front is unloaded. The exit curb, you don't want to touch it. You don't want that to unsettle the car as it goes over the bumps. All you want to do is open the wheel, short shift and get traction and get out of there. So yeah, I'll bring it up on the screen for you guys. This is exactly why we don't ride the exit curb. All right, here we go. Second chicane. touches that exit curb, and look at the way it just unsettles this car. Surprising, really. I don't know at this point. Is this a genuine mistake from Lando, or is this a lack of knowledge? I don't know. Like, you got to remember, Lando was asking about chicanes in Canada, but then you see him trying them in Ascari in FP1, which I'm like, there's hope. You're perfect, beautiful. That's the way to go. Just entry curb, start slow. Obviously not this one. I said don't go near these ones. There's no opportunities here in these curbs, and so I don't know if it's a mistake, because it's such slow speed that it's actually not hard to drive around this curb. I mean, I'll be following this story this weekend, but I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit deflated after the good piece of exploratory driving that I saw from Lando in the Ascari chicane. And then I see a very basic mistake here in the second chicane. Now, I know it's practice and they might be exploring, could be a genuine mistake, whatever. Maybe this is a nothing situation that I'm just reading too much into. But like, I was hopeful that he was on it this week. I don't know. I like to see good technique, and I try to present the opportunities where they are. And where I see like inconsistencies or bad technique, I'm like, but you were doing the right thing in Ascari, and now like, what is this? Do they not know what they're doing? I'm just trying to reconcile those two pieces of information on the same day, on the same track, on the same driver. Exit curbs are a no-no in chicanes. It's one of my golden rules. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments about that one. Didn't think that was a great piece of driving. The third and final thing I wanted to talk about in FP2 was the importance of braking and where the lap time is. Did you guys see all of Charles's lockups into Ascari chicane, lockups into the second chicane? Charles is struggling with the braking of this Ferrari, and I think it shows the importance of the braking around here. But it's also a good opportunity for Lewis this weekend when you see Charles not quite comfortable with the brakes. Have a look at the video. Let me know what you guys think. Yeah, this was a decent lockup into the second chicane. He locked up twice into Ascari as well. One bigger one and one smaller one. This was the smaller one towards the end of the session, a little bit on the front left. There was a bigger one beforehand, but yeah, just a few guys went off here. But Charles made a point of a few lockups here, so I just thought I'd call that out. As it's the importance of the braking setup and just the importance of the braking around here in general. And so, yeah, like I say, opportunity for Lewis to get some ground on Charles if he is indeed comfortable with the brake setup of that Ferrari. Guys, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, if you're new here, subscribe to this channel. I do these Friday analysis every weekend. And on your way out, if I could ask you, please leave a comment or question in the comment section below. It definitely helps the channel moving forward. Give it a thumbs up as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow.